Classroom etiquette is actually one thing that I've had to teach that I didn't expect to have to teach. Um, I have a list of rules on my classroom door, and you are more than welcome to, as a teacher, to create your own list of rules. The first rule is English only. And this is a rule that I definitely let slide a lot because a lot of the students are able to speak the same language and they can actually figure out a lot for themselves um, through speaking to each other and helping each other out. So I don't forbid, if someone speaks Somali in my classroom, I don't tell them to get out or anything. Where I will implement it is when I see one of the students speak to someone and point to getting a pencil, and I can tell that they're asking them, "Could you get me that pencil?" That's when I say, English only. Could you please give me a pencil? Okay, and I make sure that the article is in there, a pencil, and I make sure please is in there because that's such a good thing to get in the habit of saying. Another rule I have is no cell phones. A common problem in any postmodern American classroom, cell phones. So a lot of them have children, a lot of the women do, and so I know that they need their cell phones on because of emergencies or family issues, and so I don't necessarily say to turn them off, but I do say to put them on vibrate or at least not to, so, and sometimes they will answer them, and I know I can't control that. You have to be pretty lenient because they actually do have a lot of family emergencies come up all the time. So I'm not necessarily totally strict on it, but I definitely implement that rule, and it's funny because they love the rules at the end of the day. They like feeling like, oh, wow, I have a real classroom here. I am part of a class. And I always say to them, this is your college. They know that word college, and they know that it means like high education. And I always say, students, this is your college. And when I was at college, did I get to have my cell phone on? No. Actually, I totally did, but well, it depended. But yeah, so that's just important to create rules just to help the feel of the classroom because they will thrive off of that. Another rule I have is no food or drink in my classroom. Depends on where you're teaching. I know a lot of SBATA volunteers teach inside the home. That probably doesn't matter. Another rule, I'm trying to think, there's one more rule. No food or drink, English only. No talking while the teacher talks, which is actually a really big one for them. My students at least, oh my goodness, they love chit-chatting. And it surprised me because a lot of the refugees don't really get out a lot, and they don't necessarily do a lot of social interaction, even with each other, because they like to stay cocooned in their own little world. It's very risky, and it's very hard for them to get outside of it. So a lot of them have to take the bus to class. That can be so hard to do when you don't speak or know how to read English. So just getting there is really hard. And then once they get there, they see, oh wow, there's other people I know here. So they'll start chit-chatting with each other in class. And I have to be strong with them and be like, no, this is class, And that's okay. And in the end, they respect me for it. So the rules they know are only there to help them, plus keep my sanity, because when the cell phones were ringing all the time, it got pretty hard to teach. But they know that they're for their benefit, and so I always encourage other SBATA volunteers or teachers or ESL teachers to have rules and to implement them. And don't be afraid to be that bad guy sometimes, because that's what's going to earn their respect. And respect, man, that's the most important thing, most important foundation you can lay to have someone learn. You can't learn from someone if you don't respect them. And that's what I'm learning. And so more and more I'm becoming less afraid of putting my iron fist out there and my foot down. Which I definitely have a personality that is kind of like that anyway. I'm a very strong, assertive person. That helps. Now, I know not everyone is wired that way. So if you're not wired that way, that's just a side of yourself that you sort of have to build more than the other, and work on and sort of work out. But you can do it. And I'm a strong, assertive person, and honestly, it's been hard for me to do. So there are just some days where I'm like, ooh, I don't wanna push anyone's buttons, you know. But if I push someone's buttons, it's okay if it benefits them in the end. So I've also learned that from actually one student in particular. Her name is Farhia, and she came into my class having been to other ESL classes, and her handwriting was pretty good, and her English was pretty good, and her reading was pretty good. It was all pretty good. And she was my first experiment, because I was like, I don't think pretty good is good enough. I want it to be excellent. I want it to be really good. I want her handwriting to be like flawless. Let's see if we can do it. To do that, I had to strip down her self-confidence, basically, and say, no, you're writing your E's wrong. She would write her E's like a C and then a slash, and a lowercase e, you want it to be one fluid movement around. So one day I had her sit in the corner of the classroom with her notebook and handwriting paper and her pencil and write a whole page of lowercase e's. And she gave me the dirtiest looks. I mean, she was livid. She was just like, man, I was like, who knows? Who knows if I'll ever see her again, basically. And I'm telling you, at the end of the class, she showed me that paper. And I was like, Farhia, look at your E. It is so much better. I mean, instead of looking like a C with a slash, it looks like a lowercase e. And she smiled and left class. And she came back the next day. And it's funny, but she will practice lowercase e's on her own now. She likes it. And we have a very special relationship because I would always say to her, much better, much, much better. So every time I walk by, she's like, much better. So she's been my biggest learning experience, that when you push, it can be a really good thing. Even when you're like, oh, I don't know if I should push this. I mean, I was like, that is a little much. Making her sit in the corner and write a whole page of lowercase e's, that could be a little much. But oh my goodness, it was so worth it. There's not a day that goes by that I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I did that for her, because her handwriting is just beautiful now. I mean, it's just beautiful. It's better than mine. So I would definitely encourage all other teachers out there to not be afraid to do that, because that's where the magic happens, is when you really don't take no for an answer and push. So, good luck.